Hello and welcome. In this lesson, you'll learn how to use the heading and paragraphs tag in your HTML. Let's get started. At the end of this lesson, you will learn how to create a good document structure using the heading and paragraph elements in HTML. Now, why is that important? One of HTML's main job is to give the text that you have written in your HTML file structure so that a web browser can display the HTML document the way you, the developer, intends. HTML provides tags that are designed for structuring any heading or paragraph you will need on your web page. We have two of these tags or elements, if I should put it. The first one is the heading element. The next, paragraph element. So what are heading elements? Whenever you want to create titles or subtitles on your web page, you would use the heading elements to create those so it can be displayed on your web page. Now, why is that important? You notice that users would often skim a page by its heading, and so when a user visits your website, they will go through the headings on the web page to find the exact content that they need. So this heading element you will be using in your HTML document would help you structure the titles or the subtitles you want to display on your web page. Let's look at an analogy. This is a sample newspaper. You will notice we have a heading, LA hospitals overwhelmed again. Then we have subheading, Edwards considering reinstating max mandates. Another subheading. When we come to the latter part of the newspaper, there is also a heading element, state's largest ICU fall, and below that heading we have a block of text which is the paragraph. So just like in a newspaper, the headings help you to skim the paper to get the relevant information you would need. We would use heading elements in our HTML document so that it becomes easier for you to locate the title and the corresponding text that you'd want to read or you want users to take note of. Now, there are 6 levels of section headings you can use in your HTML document. Let's look at those. The first is H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and then H6 heading elements. Let's now examine these heading elements one after the other. We will start with H1. H1 represents the main heading or the most important title you want to display on your web page. So anytime you use an H1 element, you want the content in that tag to be the most important content or title that you want to display to any user that visits your web page. So normally H1 tags have big font size, and so anytime you use an H1 element in your HTML document, when it's viewed on a browser, it will appear bigger compared to the other heading elements. Following the H1 heading element, the next heading element that you can use is H2. H2 is normally used to represent subheading or the second most important title you want to display on your web page. So anytime you use an H2 element, then you'd want to indicate a subheading or the second most important title. So it follows in that order. When we go to the next level, which is H3, H3 will represent what we will say a subheading or the third most important title that you will need on your web page. So after H3 we have H4 heading element, H5 heading element, and then the last one, H6. H6 will represent the lowest heading element you can have in your HTML document. It usually will represent the least most important title that you want to display on your web page. So how will you use all of these heading elements I have demonstrated? Now, the specific heading you would need would always be wrapped in a heading tag in order for it to be displayed on the web browser. So the most important heading or caption of your website will always be wrapped in an H1 tag. This means the most important caption would be in an opening H1 tag and a closing H1 tag. Let's look at an example. Here I have an opening H1 tag and a closing H1 tag. Between this tag, the opening tag and the closing tag, I would have the caption or title I want to display on the web browser. So in this case, the caption is "This is the heading 1." This would ensure that the text "This is heading 1" would be the biggest text that would be displayed on the web browser or my web page. It is recommended to have a single H1 element on your web page. This means that if I want to display a subheading, I would need to use a different heading element. So I can use an H2 because H2 is the second most important heading element in our HTML heading elements. So to use an H2 in structuring the text on your web page, it will follow the same process. You would write your opening H2 tag, the closing H2 tag, and then the content to be displayed will be here. In this case, this is heading 2. If we want to display a subheading, or in other words, a heading below that of H2, we would go to H3 for it. So this is how to use an H3 element on your HTML document to display titles. You have your opening H3, closing H3, then the content. This is heading 3. You would follow this same process for any type of heading you'd want to display on the web page. So for instance, if you want to display a heading 4, this will be the structure. Opening H4 tag, closing H4 tag, then the content to be displayed. Heading 5 follow the same process. Opening H5 tag, closing H5 tag, then the content to be displayed. And finally, the heading 6. Opening H6 tag, closing H6 tag, then the title or the caption to be displayed. What if you want to display a block of text after your title or caption? That is where the paragraph element come in. What is a paragraph, you be asked? A paragraph is simply a block of text that provides details to your title or heading. The p-HTML element would represent a paragraph. How will we use a paragraph element in our HTML document so that after our title or caption we have a block of text that we can display on our web page? This is the markup for a paragraph element. You would always start with your opening p tag, then end with your closing p tag. In between the opening p tag and your closing p tag would be the block of text that you'd want to display on your web browser or web page. Now you can have multiple block of text, but always remember that each block should be wrapped in its own p tag. Let's look at an example. Here we have 2 blocks of text. The first one is wrapped in its own p tag. So we have the opening p tag, the closing p tag. Then we have this block of text to display. The second one, or the second block of text, is also wrapped in its own p tag. So you have your opening p tag, closing p tag, and the block of text to be displayed. In this session, we are going to apply what we've learned about the heading element and paragraph element in our text editor. Alright, so we've learned that we have 6 levels of section headings, each one being the highest section level and then H6 being the lowest section level. So let's see how we are going to write this in our HTML editor or our code editor. So I'm going to start with the highest section level, which is the H1 tag. Right, so I'm going to write my H1 tag, and then inside the H1 tag I'm going to put the title or the heading that I want to showcase when somebody visits my web page. So I'm going to write heading 1. Next, I'm going to write the second section level, which is heading 2. So heading 2 is normally used for a subheading. So I'm going to go to the next line, then write my H2 tag. Then in it I'll say this is a subheading. So our heading 2 becomes the next section level. Heading 1 is the highest section level. Then we go to heading 2, which becomes the second highest section level. Now we want to move on to the third highest section level. That will be a heading 3. So in our code editor, we write our h3 tag, and then inside the h3 tag we put the title or the subheading that we want to showcase. Okay, so let's move on and write the heading 4 section level. That is going to be the same process. We're going to have our h4 tag, then in between the opening h4 and the closing h4 tag, you put in your title. Then I move on to heading 5. And lastly, the lowest section level heading element, which is heading 6. Alright, so now if you visit your web page, you would see different levels of headings. The heading 1 being the highest or the one with the biggest font. Then it drops till you get to the lowest being heading 6. So let's take a look at it. So this is our web page, and you see that we have heading 1 having the highest font. Then we go to heading 2, that is a bit smaller compared to heading 1, and then we go to heading 3. This is heading 4, heading 5, and then heading 6. So these are the 6 heading levels that you can have in the various section of your HTML document. This allows users to quickly scan through your page and to find relevant information. Next, let's learn how to add a heading and a paragraph to our HTML document. So you're going to use heading 1 for the demonstration purposes. So I'm going to have my h1 tag, and then I say about coding. So this is going to be the title of my section. Then I have a paragraph tag. How do we write a paragraph element? You will start with your p tag, and then you're going to have your closing p tag. Then in between the p tag, you would write the content of the paragraph that you want to display. So I've already copied some content, so I'm just going to paste them here. Then I'm just going to save my file. Now when I come to my web page and I reload the page, I should see a heading 1 followed by a block of text, which is my paragraph. So let's see how it goes. So this is what we have now. We have about coding being the heading, then coding tells a machine blah 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 being the paragraph. So this is how to add a heading and a paragraph to your HTML document. Now let's assume we want to add additional paragraph to it. What do we need to do? We can add different block of text to our section. So in this case, I'm going to write another p tag. Then I'm just going to duplicate the same code here and then save my file. Then visit my web page. Once I visit my web page, you'll see that I have one paragraph and another paragraph. Alright, so that is how to add multiple paragraphs to your HTML document. So these heading levels are very important when you are structuring your HTML document. Why? Because when search engines are indexing your web page, they will consider the content of the headings as important keywords, and that will influence your page ranking on search engines. This means if you exclude headings in your HTML content structure, your page will perform poorly in terms of search engine optimization. The next reason why you need to have heading labels in your HTML content structured is that visually impaired people will listen to web pages with a screen reader. Now, the screen reader provides an outline of the document by reading the various headings, and this allows the users to find information quickly. This means that if you exclude headings in any section of your HTML document, the headings will be unavailable. Hence, they will be forced to listen to the whole document read out loud. However, if your web page have different sections with corresponding headings, when it gets to any particular section, that heading will be read out loud by the screen reader. Lastly, let's look at why we will still need to have headings in our HTML document, especially headings with paragraph, because we want to avoid text appear as a big chunk where we don't segment our web page in terms of having headings with their corresponding paragraph. Our web page will become a huge chunk of text, and it will be difficult for users to be able to easily find information. Okay, so I want to say thank you for joining me in this lesson. Please, if you found value in this lesson, please subscribe to my channel so you get notified anytime I drop a lesson. See you soon.